All right, so welcome back, guys. So here we have the chassis that belonged to the Kraton, which we're going to be converting it now to the chassis for the Talion. So what I did was, on the Talion, I removed both the front and rear end. I did the same for the Kraton, which is this one. And the only thing left for me to do here is to first remove the tower here, because that's going to have to go on the other chassis, and then just start bolting on the front and rear end of the Talion, that came off the previous Talion chassis, onto this one here. So again, for this job, what you're going to need is needle nose plier, 2 manual drivers, one 2.0 and the other 2.5. And if you have an electric cordless drill, you can also do the same by getting another 2.0 and a 2.5 driver for the drill. So for this here, I think that the only thing that we need is to remove these 4 screws that are inside here. So there's one there, one here, and the other here. So before I do that, let me see something real quick here. Okay, so yeah, so what I can do is, this is the chassis that was for the Talion, and what I'm going to do is, once I remove the tower from the Kraton here, I'm just going to put the screws back in, because it seems like you know, it goes back onto the differential mount and the motor mount here. So that's what I'm going to do. Place that on the side there, and let me untighten these here. I wonder how long these screws are. Hopefully I don't need to use a cordless drill for this. And that should be it. Voila. So what I'm going to do here is, I am going to remove these screws entirely so I can pop this. Well, I didn't have to, but I still need to remove them entirely in order to put the top plate back on. So okay, and I'm missing 1 screw. There you go. All 4 of them are here. I intend to rebuild this center diff. So as a matter of fact, what I'm going to do is, just going to leave this as is. Just going to put the screws here, of course, so they're in place, they don't get lost. So, I mean, there's no point of me adding it back on if I'm going to later on remove it to rebuild the well, not rebuild, but change the diff fluid inside the center diff, and that should be okay. I should have probably just dropped that there, but who cares. So now that we've done that, we're ready to slap on the front and rear. The reason why I'm gonna put the front and rear here on is because you might be asking yourself, but you have to, if you're going to rebuild the front and rear diff, why put on the front end and the rear end if you're going to do that? Well, the reason why is because I'm going to show you the front here of the Talion, and the same goes for the Kraton as well. In order to access the diff, Arma's ingenuity from this perspective was brilliant. The only thing that you really need to do is just loosen this sway bar here, and then just take off these screws here in the front, and the differential will just pop right out. So that is pretty awesome, as opposed to others where you basically have to break down like this whole part here in order to access the diff. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and just slap it on right now. And yeah, so let's start with the front end, and let's not forget to add the bumper here, because you're gonna need it in order to secure these pins there. So I'm gonna go ahead and line this up. going to put them in a crisscross pattern here. See if I can actually get this in there. When I tighten them down, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to tighten them down in a star pattern, like 1, 2, 3, and 4, just to make sure that they all are in evenly. Okay. As you can see, I'm not tightening anything down. I'm just inserting the screws. And we're going to get the 2 small ones here, and these require this, the 2.0. And the next one, that's there. Switch drivers, put in the screws into this one here. That's good. Next one. Okay, so now we're ready to screw them down. Now keep in mind, when you're using an electric driver, when you're gonna screw them back down, what I like to do is I put the clutch here setting to it depends, either on 4, 6, or 8. I like to leave it at 8 because that pretty much gets it where it needs to be as far as tightening the screws are. And then once they're all screwed in, I'll finish them off with the manual one. And like that, I ensure that I don't strip none of the bolts here on the screws. So first things first, let's get our 2.5. And again, like I said, we're going to do this in a star pattern. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to stop there. I'm not tightening it up all the way. I'm just inserting them in. And so now I'm ready to start tightening them up a bit. Let me just secure this one here. Okay, good. So now I'm going to go until the clutch gets engaged. And that's it. I stop, go to the bottom one, across, done. Go to this one here, done. And the last one, that's it. So now, be careful if you're doing it the way that I'm doing it now, because I just noticed that this pin just came out. And let me just lift this, because I don't want this to come out. And there we go. Good. So now I'm going to tighten these two right here, which holds the steering post. Again, just a little bit at a time. And then that's it. Move on to the next one. And then we're going to secure these last two that are right here. So I'm going to switch this out. Go with my 2.0. That's it, just driving it down. I'm not tightening anything yet, but on this one I am. That's it, we're done there. And we're done here. And I just noticed I did a little bit of a boo-boo. Remember when I told you guys, don't forget to put this on, which is the front bumper? Well, guess what, I forgot. So we're gonna have to unscrew these and insert this back in and retighten them down. Now let's slide this Hudiki in there, like so. We're gonna reinsert the screws now. All right, so now I'm gonna torque them. Done. 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 done, and done. So now the only thing left to do here is to mount the servo horn and also the whatchamacallit, the interesting, and also mount this chimichanga here, the torque rod. Let's find the hole there. Okay. And I'm gonna remove the lower nylon lock that I had there. I'm gonna put it here and screw this in a bit. There. And gonna hold it in place. With my 2.0, I'm going to tighten it. All right, so there you go. Your front end is completely done. And we're going to now move on to the rear. But before I do, I'm going to pause the video real quick. Okay, YouTube, we're back. So now I'm going to go ahead and install the rear end of the Talion onto the what was the Kraton chassis. One thing you guys might be asking yourselves is, oh my God, you put on the front end as you did, but you forgot to put the dog bone. I didn't forget to put the dog bone. The reason why I didn't put the dog bone is because, remember, I am going to remove this differential to change the fluid in it, and there's really no point in putting in the dog bone if I'm going to be removing this, so which is why I left it out. So okay, so let's move on with this installation. Now the way I wanted to tackle this was to install this first and then tackle the torque rod. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, and this is only just 4 screws, so this should be pretty quick, with the exception of this one, which makes it 5 screws. So again, like I mentioned, I'm not going to put on the dog bone because there's really no need for it if I'm going to be pulling out the differential here, or the center diff, to have it rebuilt. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the the end on. So let's see, how is the easiest way of doing this. So we flip it over like this and just put this here, try to line up the holes here, and there we go. Put in 1 screw. Again, we're going to do our star pattern here. So I'm going to start here, stop, move on to the next one, stop, move on to this one, stop, move on to this one, all the way to the end. Done. Come here, done, move here, done, move here, and voila. So now I'm going to take the manual driver and I'm going to torque them. Beautiful, excellent, brilliant, and done. So now we're going to go ahead and mount the torque rod. Let's move this over here to the side, and remember, don't forget the 2 spacers. You need the 2 spacers in order to mount it here. Let me flip this around a bit, and both spacers are different sizes. See if you guys can see there. So one is shorter and the other one is, let me put it like this. One is shorter and the other one is actually longer. Come here. Where's the screw? There we go. Thread that in. Now get the longer one and place it there. Let's thread it through. Good. Put the nut back in there like so. I'm gonna drive this in now. So I'll finish torquing this down. Wonderful. So now if I put the dog bone here and test it, now it's clear and there won't be any binding. So good stuff. Yep, that's correct. Alrighty, good. So let's see. So in a nutshell, that's how you install the front and the rear end to an Arma Talion. In a nutshell. All right, guys, thanks for watching and have a good one.